This is Jammin with Jamboard. We will be talking about Google Jamboard. I do have a link to the resource listed on these slides as well. So if you are just joining us or missed the link in the chat, you'll notice it on these slides as well. A couple of webinar housekeeping things. Again, the presentation link is there. It is case sensitive, so you will need a capital J on Jammin, capital W on With, and a capital J on Jamboard. If you have questions, again, please use the Padlet board, which you will see in the resource. I'm going to admit somebody else in here really quickly. There we go. And if you can't hear or see, please just throw it in the chat and we'll do our best. It can't be worse than this morning. I did a presentation this morning for the University of Maine and I went to school to do it, knowing that the internet there is so much better. And I kept getting kicked off every 30 seconds. So needless to say, I needed to end the webinar, run home 20 minutes and start all over again. So this has got to be better. Certificates of participation. At the end of today's closing keynote, you will receive an email link to the attendance and feedback forms. Please fill that out today as it will close after 24 hours. A link will be sent to you then that you can use to print or save your certificates. Again, if you have any questions regarding that, you can use the bit.ly link that is here from BCSSteam. I unfortunately do not have access to that, so I'm not able to issue certificates. So please make note of that if you are in need of certificates. CEU questions, you can come back and review this. There's some information here regarding credits and what you will receive. So again, come back and take a peek at this if that is something that you need to have information about. And then today, as far as Jamboard, I know we have people from all over, but obviously North Carolina is where we are putting our main focus. And so thinking about the North Carolina digital learning competencies, Jamboard can really fit into many of the different learning competencies as I was going through them. But the one to me that really stands out is that teachers will know and use appropriate digital tools and resources for instruction. Jamboard is an amazing tool that obviously with everything that went on in the spring where we all were probably out with remote learning, Jamboard really opens up a lot of doors for you to be able to connect and collaborate with your students in real time. I will say, obviously, we're going back in the fall. Many of us are going back in person and socially distanced. This is a tool that in our district we are talking about using even in person. It's a wonderful way to have all of your students collaborating at the same time, especially if you are one-to-one, fortunate enough to be on one-to-one devices. So kind of keep that in mind. This is not just for virtual learning. This is great within the classroom as well and can be used in a lot of different formats. And I will share ideas with you today as well. And there are many in that Wakelet board that you can investigate further at your own convenience. As I mentioned, I started to introduce myself, a little bit more about me. My name is Sarah Melko. I am a digital learning specialist in the Pulaski Community School District. I work with K through 5 teachers in 2 different elementary buildings. I have a blog called Digital Meanderings, which is linked on that PDF resource board where I post a lot of different things throughout the year, just a whole variety. So feel free to go and check that out. My contact information will also be in that PDF. I am certainly happy at any point in time to answer questions. So if there's anything that I can help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Just a quick note, because I always tend to run out of time at the end, so I'm kind of putting it here at the beginning. Just a quick thank you to all of the BCSSteam sponsors and donors. We know what crazy times these are, so it certainly is amazing to have the support that we have of the sponsors and donors that are listed here. So again, with that said, this will be in your PDF, my contact information. The PDF looks like this. Everything should be there for you. If you have questions, again, throw them on that Padlet board, and we're going to jump in with Jamboard. I will tell you that my entire presentation today is actually built in Jamboard. I wanted you to be able to see it and experience it as it is. So the slide deck, if you want to call it that you are looking at right now, is actually a Jamboard that is set up for today's purposes. So many of you I know are brand new to Jamboard, so we're going to start with the basics and we are going to work our way up. So the first thing, obviously it helps to know a little bit about Jamboard. Jamboard is available as an app or a web. Some of you might be familiar with it as like a smart board. There is actually a hardware device called a Jamboard. For today's purposes, we are going to be talking about the app and the web, and we're mainly going to be focusing in on the web version of Jamboard, although I will touch a little bit on the app aspect too, because it does offer some additional functionality, which we will talk about. Jamboard is great. Like I said, it's in real time. It's a great way because we very well know that students thrive when they can actively explore their ideas and make their thinking and learning visible. Jamboard gives you that opportunity. You are going to be able to add images, text, drawings. From the app, you're also able to bring in your Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, PDFs from your Drive, things of that sort. So again, the app does offer a little more functionality. Couple of the features that I want to point out here, and this does show you the difference between the web, which you can see over on the right-hand side, which doesn't have as much functionality as I've already mentioned. But a couple of the different things that are here. Over on the side here, this obviously is the toolbar, and the toolbar on the app does look a little bit different. Both web and app have the different pen tools available. So that's the first over here on your toolbar. The second on your toolbar is the erase button. This is your select button. So if you're needing to click and drag, move things around, this is what you're going to be using. This is how we add sticky notes. And again, I'm going to go through each of these tools in more detail and also give you time to play with them. So bear with me as I'm just kind of sharing some of the details with you. This is where you're going to add your images. And this on the bottom is the laser tool. Happens to be one of my favorites. If you are needing a student to focus in, using that laser tool allows you to draw on the screen. And as you can see, the ink shows up, but then magically disappears. So it's a great way to kind of bring that focus in for your students. A quick pro tip, and I'll probably mention this several different times. I actually have Jamboard opened up right now on my MacBook, and I am displaying my screen to you. I also have Jamboard opened up on my iPad in front of me because I have more functionality. And with my stylus now, I am actually able to write on the screen in real time and not have to use the trackpad on my MacBook. So just a quick tip that makes things a lot easier when you are working with students. All right, so let's dig in. You've got a little piece on the toolbar on how things work. I'm going to give you a couple examples of how each of the tools can be used. And then, like I said, we're going to jump onto a collaborative Jamboard. So obviously, we know with everything that's going on in the world, and we talk a lot about social and emotional learning right now and where our kids are at, and we want to have those check-ins, especially if we're virtual. What I have set up on this page is just a very simple and easy way to do a social and emotional check-in with your students. I simply brought in an image, and this is an idea from Tech Miss C on Twitter. She is amazing, has some awesome ideas. If you're a Twitter person, check her out. But I basically just brought this image in, and I have what we call a sticky note here, which I grabbed from over here simply by clicking on it, and I can type in it and choose the different colors that are here of my choice. And asking students with that story starter or sentence starter, how are you feeling today and why? Students can now jump on, because I'm going to be collaboratively sharing this board with them. It's shared just like a Google Doc, and we'll go more into that in a few moments. But I now have this sticky note here with the starter here for my youngers in particular, where they can take this note, and when they click on it, the 3 dots show up. I can click on duplicate. Each student can click duplicate, and they now have access to that starter. I can also click right on it, and now I can put in and finish my starter. Oops. Well, that doesn't say shining now, does it? There we go. And I can click save. I'm going to jump over to the meet. I think we have somebody that's ding-donging to try and get in here. There we go. Welcome, Laura. Glad you could join us. So again, just a very simple way where I could have students put a sticky note on. Maybe they're just going to write their own how they're feeling for today. But again, just super duper easy way to bring them in, and just by adding sticky notes. Another idea thinking about guided reading groups, and I know our teachers, we've had a lot of conversations, especially from a virtual perspective. How do we do guided reading groups, with small groups of students virtually, or even social distance for that matter? Jamboard can really bring some possibilities. So this is a template, if you will, that I set up on this Jamboard page. In the event that I would be working with 6 students for guided reading, we're reading the story, The Good Egg, and we're talking about theme at this point in time, and I'm wondering what the theme of that story is. Notice that I have these are sticky notes that I pre-programmed just simply with a number. And to do that, I grabbed my sticky note. I always go to image first by accident. And I just put a number 1 on it and I saved it. And then you can see it posted up here. I can now, when I click on that sticky note, I can drag it to whatever size I would like. And then up here in the corner is my rotate button. So I pre-programmed those, and the reason I did that is for accountability. So as I have my students, if I'm working virtually and each child has a color or a number, and again, you could program this with the child's name. I just did it with numbers for today's purposes. That child can now click on their sticky note. They know which one is theirs. They can now edit that to put in the theme of the story and add their response and click save. I now have that accountability for my guided reading group of knowing that each student has posted an answer. On the side here, I have a beginning, middle, and end. Same thing. I could ask students to put a sticky note and put in that sticky note what they feel happened in the beginning of the story and put it over into this template. So sticky notes are, as you can see here, amazing. When you think about what you can do with the sticky notes, really, sky is the limit. Anything from, KWLs, if you want to give feedback to students, if you want to do graphing, if you have your image pulled in of a graph, you can have students use the sticky notes to actually vote on the graph. Predictions and connections, whatever it might be, again, the sky is the limit. It's just another tool for students to be able to respond on the Jamboard. Great way for them to be engaged with the content and to practice and apply those skills. Just another example, this again was built with sticky notes. If you are working with a small group or even individually and thinking about word families and needing to build word families, again, these are created with the sticky notes. These over here, it was kind of interesting when I first started playing with Jamboard, and I'm like, well, how in the world can I do this without a sticky note? And this is still a sticky note, and what you do if you're going to put a letter on here or a word, whatever it is, over here, you've got all your colors. The one at the very, very end is no color. So when I click on that one, it now provides me a see-through sticky note, which you can now see up here in the corner. And I, again, can size it, resize it, and move it around. But this is great for students because students, when they come on now, as long as they have editing rights on the board, they can simply click on a letter, they can drag it and drop it. I do have this in the collaborative boards you can play around a little bit with as well. I will preface, I don't think I shared with you when I shared my background information. I am a primary teacher, so a lot of my examples are primary. However, I do have upper elementary, middle school, high school examples as well. But as far as how I use Jamboard, obviously I'm mainly with littles. So you will probably see more of that. Thinking small group, again, how are you going to do small groups, whether it be socially distanced or virtual? This can be done even if you're not socially distanced. It's a great way to give all students access as opposed to just one person coming up to the smartboard. As you can see here, this is an example of working on place value, and students need to find where the numbers go on the grid. You'll notice that each of my numbers over here are, again, they're sticky notes. I've just resized them, but I've also color coded them. So I have this set up for a small group math assignment where each student's going to have a color that they're going to work with. So Susie's going to work with the green, Joe's going to work with the blue, etc. They can now drag and drop. I can also extend this so that if Joe is all done with his 6 numbers and I need to have an extension for him, I can now ask him to use the pen tool, and I might say to him, I want you to fill in the 9s column. Show me what numbers are going to fit there. So now I'm giving him practice as well with counting by 10s. So I can also differentiate quite easily. And as you can see here on the pen tool, when I click on it, the kids do have, hopefully it's going to pop up here quickly. There we go. There are several different pens that they can choose from. But then there are also several colors, and that really is it. There's not a whole lot here to choose from, so it does keep learning moving quite quickly, but you'll notice that the color of the pen tools matches the color of the sticky notes, which I find to be very helpful. So if Sue is doing the green sticky notes. I can tell her to grab the green pen, and now I can see that that work is hers because it lines up with colors. So again, just trying to be intuitive with how I can bring this in, whether it be face-to-face, virtual, or socially distanced. So all of those are ways that you can add sticky notes. And obviously, again, the sky's the limit. You just kind of have to think outside of the box. Images are another thing that are easy to add on. And again, thinking about how I can use these. Images, again, are down here. Thinking about adding images, maybe you want students to be able to show the life cycle of the butterfly, for example. So adding images, you have a lot of options. You can select files right from your device. If your students are on the app, they can select from their camera roll. Google image search is here, and the great thing about the Google image search is it automatically does go to safe search. So your kiddos are not going to end up with images that they should not be in. I think we have another friend coming on board, so there we go. Welcome, Rebecca. Glad to have you with us. Okay, so again, simply by clicking in here, I can do my safe search for my Google Images, do a search. Once those images show up, I can click the one I want, click select. It's going to pull it onto my canvas. And just like the sticky notes, once it's here, I again can resize it and move it around and rotate it. So adding images, again, very, very simple. I personally, when I'm doing Jamboards, is much like the presentation style here, like to have things on my Jamboard ahead of time to help me guide my students. But again, very easy for students to also add images to show their learning. So again, just kind of keep that in mind as we're working through. Couple of tips kind of on that same order of using images, but again, how can I use this within my classroom environment? Jamboard is a great way if you need to bring manipulatives in, super easy to do. So as you can see here, I have coins. I simply went into that image search. I found coins. I can now use this particular page of Jam with this particular page on my Jam to have students build money. Now, for students to use these, they're going to click on it. They'll have to come up to the 3 dots and duplicate it. That can be very time consuming, especially if you are working remotely. And so a little tip and trick here, if you are not familiar with this, is the Control C. C is for copy, and Control V. V is for Velcro. If you are on a Mac, it's the Command C or Command V. So when I'm setting up a template like this and I'm going to have students working with me on counting money or showing a certain amount of money, I like to have as much of the money set up as I can. So by clicking on this, I can Control C it, and now when I Control V it, it's going to give me multiple pieces of money. So I'll set several up there so that they're there and ready to use for students. Another shortcut that's even faster is the duplicate button, and that's Control D. So again, same thing. If I just Control D it after I click on it, it's going to add that pile of money. So again, I will quickly have these available for kids. And now when the kids are on the Jamboard with me, if I say make 16 cents, they can now simply click and drag to show that money. Same exact example down below with base 10 blocks, showing ways that you can represent 125. Again, you'll have to decide if it's worth the time to copy and paste your images ahead of time, or if you want students to be able to do that to represent. So again, depending on the grade level that you are working with and the students that you have. As far as images too, as I mentioned here in the image area, as far as going into Google image search, there is a lot there, but you can also pull in from your Google Drive or upload right from your computer. So for the base 10 blocks, for example, I have clip art that I have purchased, I have saved in my Google Drive. That's how I brought those in. Works the exact same way as Google search. You're just searching, obviously, your drive or your computer. I'm going to hold off on the Equatio extension for right now because I do want to make sure that we get through everything. But if we have time at the very end, I'm going to come back to this. This is not right within Jamboard itself. It is a Chrome extension, but it is great if you are wanting, if you're a math teacher, especially at the high school level, or if you're wanting to drag different pieces in like pattern blocks, again, base 10 blocks are in here, etc. So I will come back to this at the end if we have some extra time. If we don't, I do have information about the Equatio extension and how to use it built into that Wakelet board of resources as well. So worst comes to worst, it is there for you as well. Okay, so before we jump completely in and have you try some different things, what I showed you so far were the basic tools. And it really, for Jamboard to come to life, it really is about thinking about, well, now how can I use this with my students? And obviously, the few examples I've shown you already are, like I said, very basic. So I want to show you not only a tip and a trick here, but also some different ideas that you may not have thought of and think, wow, this might really work well. So I purposely have this set up right now with these 9 ideas, and it may be visually hard for you to see. And the reason I did this is because I wanted to show you that you could have quite a bit of content on one page, but then as you are bringing it together and wanting to share it with students, when you click on it, remember we talked about how you're able to resize? So one of the great ways that you can use this is for sketchnoting. And so now, as I'm demonstrating this and talking to you about it, I can just stretch this out, make it available for you to get a better look at it, and we can talk about that particular thing. So sketchnoting, again, for those of you that are sketchnoters, I personally am not. I am too perfectionistic and I can never get my sketches done fast enough to keep up with what's going on. So God bless those of you that sketchnote, but very, very easy to do, particularly on the mobile devices if you have a stylus. Sketchnoting on the MacBook or on a computer, probably not going to be easy to do on the trackpad. And I think we have another friend coming to join us here. So fantastic. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. So again, I'm just going to come up here and use the backwards arrow then after I've resized it just to make it faster. I can click there and I can drop it back in. Another idea here is for timelines. Maybe you're studying, the history of the Civil War or the American Revolution. You can create timelines, as you can see here. Sticky notes, use the pen tool, brought images in. Just a very simple and easy way to create a timeline. I will say, as I'm sharing this with you too, obviously if I have a timeline, I might just have it on one page of Jam. But if you're thinking, how can I use this within my classroom environment, and I have 15 students and I want everybody to create, whether it's a timeline or a research project, which I'll show you here in just a moment, you can actually have up to 20 pages on a Jam. You might set it up so that each particular child has a page, or even a couple of children share on one page, so they're collaborating on that part of the Jam. But now you can have each group, if you will, on their particular page and working collaboratively to create that timeline or create that sketch note, etc. Thinking about check-ins, this is an example from Chris Shiner, an amazing person, does a lot of work with Seesaw. Always is sharing, great to watch and follow on Twitter. He set this up as being a check-in, again, another social-emotional check-in. He would have this on his Jam. He has all the Post-its down here. You can pre-populate it with all of your students' names. They then simply click and drag up to how they are feeling today. This particular template is on that Wakelet board, so you can actually grab it right from him and throw it right into your Jam as well. Another one, this is from Bobby, as far as doing research. You might have students out and researching a particular animal. Maybe it's on Epic or Pebble Go or Raz Kids. They can then come onto the Jamboard using sticky notes and bringing in images to share the information that they have collected. This could then be used within a virtual environment as well. If you're in a Google Meet, they could have this presenting their screen. They could then use this to then present their research to the class if you're able to do that. A couple of other ones, and I won't enlarge all of these. You will have access to the slide deck through that PDF and be able to look at them as well. This is another one. This is really great. How are you feeling so far about the material? And you can have a stoplight there, red being that you don't understand, green, we're good to go. And you can have students post a color-coded sticky note to say how they're doing and if they may need some help. Building community, getting to know you. Obviously, we don't know for sure How many of us are going back blended versus in-person versus full-out virtual? The potential is there. We have a district in our area that is starting virtually. How do you start building community when you're talking about virtual learning from day one? Jamboard can actually provide that for you. And this is just a great way. Maybe you're going to talk about how to be successful team members. Maybe you're going to set up your classroom expectations. Those are all easily done on Jamboard as well. The others I'm not going to go through individually, but you can brainstorm and collaborate. As you can see here, kids can put their sticky notes on. You can add that collaborative feedback as students are working. For example, with the money example that I shared a few moments ago, you can put a sticky note up in real time and share information with them on how they're doing as well. The small group math assessment I shared with you, but again, real-time assessments. This is a great way if you want to do an assessment with a child and you're within that remote learning environment, might be a great way to do that. Okay, that being said, we're going to actually jump into jamming, as I like to call it. There are 3 ways that you can access Jamboard. I will say that Jamboard is part of the Google Education suite, and so your administrators may need to turn it on if you're not seeing it. But the 3 ways that you can get there are by going to jamboard.google.com. That link is also on the resource that I shared with you before, so if you want to click there, you certainly can. You may find it in your waffle if it is turned on for your environment. So if you go up to the waffle or the 9 dots and you scroll down, you will find Jamboard. You can click there. Or you can also access it from your Google Drive by going to the More area here, and then Jamboard will be over on the pop-up window on the side. I find it easiest to go to the waffle. That's where I like to go. I will say in that regard too that your jams, when you create them, so the one we're looking at, they live in your Google Drive environment. So if you are wanting to access your jams, if you go into Google Drive and you type in Jamboard, it's going to pull all your files up. That's where you are going to make a copy if you're going to delete them, etc. The Jamboard dashboard, which I'm going to show you right here. So let's go back out here. Come on. My internet's being a little pokey here. My apologies. So the Jamboard dashboard, when you look at, you're going to see all the Jamboards that you have made, and you can pull them up from this location. However, if you click on the dots here, you can remove it. You can download it as a PDF and you can rename it. But notice here, you're not seeing make a copy. So if you're doing a jam with a particular reading group, but you want the same jam for a different reading group, you're going to go into your Google Drive to access it. In your Google Drive, you get your standard make a copy, delete, etc. So just keep in mind that your jams do live in your Google Drive, and that's where you're going to have more functionality to do a little bit more with them. This is really just your dashboard of what is where. Okay, so that being said, hopefully you were able to get to Jamboard. At the top, and you can see here on my screen, as you open up a Jamboard, there's going to be on your dashboard, there should be a plus sign. When you click on that plus, it will open up a brand new jam for you, and you're going to basically find an empty canvas. At the top, you're going to notice right now, mine says 14 of 19 up here. Those are the different slides. So when I click there, that's going to expand, and I'm going to be able to see the different slides that I have within my jam. This is where you can add a page as well. So I can click that plus sign and I can add a page in between any of these areas. So again, depending on where I want it. If I've already added it and I want to move it around, I simply need to click it and I can slide it, as you can see here, and it will drop into the new location. And then this is also the 3 dots up here at the top. This is also where I can duplicate a particular slide. So again, if you want all of your students to work on a timeline and you set one of them up as a template, if you will, you can now duplicate it multiple times without having to recreate on every single page. This is also where you can delete a page if for some reason you don't need one. Of note here too, in case I forget to mention it, Jamboard does have some built-in backgrounds. Nothing all that fancy, to be honest. There's the plain white. There is the dot. Great if you want to play dots or do some graphing. And then as you can see here, there's some graph paper There's some notebook paper, gray, blue, and black. So pretty basic. And then the clear frame, basically, if you hit that, or touch that, you're going to clear everything. So great if you need to start all over, but if you've got a lot on there, this is not the undo button. It is the clear everything. Your undo button is up here in the top left. Sharing is super easy, and this is going to be important to know because I'm obviously going to be sharing a jam here with you to be able to play on. Sharing, if you are a Google user and you are used to sharing Google Docs, Google Slides, etc., it basically shares the exact same way. It shares very easily to Seesaw, to Google Classroom. If you're a Classroom user, you can email the link. You can put the link in the chat if you are virtual and you're on a Google Meet or in Zoom. So no matter what, you have a lot of variability to get kids the link that they need. And to share it, you're simply going up here to the share button in the top right corner. Once you're there, again, it's just like Google Docs or Google Slides. You're going to see who it is shared with. I'm going to kind of walk through while we're waiting for my internet here, which is kind of pokey. You can change it right here. Obviously, I have this one opened up to anybody on the web. And then the big thing here to remember is, what are you doing with this jam? Are you simply using it as a presentation? So in this particular case, I'm using it only as a presentation. We're not going to be collaborating on this particular jam. So I have it set that people are just going to be able to view this one. However, if you want your students to be able to collaborate with you and to add sticky notes, please make sure that you switch over to editor. That's going to be extremely important so that they can actually move things. We're finding that with the new Google update that it used to automatically default to editor if we remembered it correctly. So this is an extra step to remember. It seems like we're always going back in and changing that back up again. Alrighty, with that said, I do want to give you a little bit of time. I'm gonna talk about the app here in just a minute while we start to collaborate. So on the PDF that I shared with you, if you scroll down to the bottom, we do have, let's see, how many people do we have with us right now? We have about 44 people. On the bottom of that document, I have 4 different collaborative jams set up. If we all jump on to jam number 1, it's going to be kind of hard. If I remember correctly, 50 is the limit that you can have on a jam, so we could all fit, but it's going to be a little cumbersome. So try to split yourselves up. I'm not going to assign you a particular jam. Just grab one. They are already open collaboratively to you. When you jump on that jam, it's going to look like this. It'll say jamming with Google Jamboard, and it'll say group 1, 2, or 3. And I'm going to walk you through some of the different features right now. So if you are in group 1 with me, we're going to be on this together. One of the things I will share with you, especially if you're working remotely, is you're going to need to talk your kids through where you are at. When I turn the page, it's not going to turn the page for you. You will have to turn your own page. So again, you're going to need to make your children familiar with who is up or who's on the jam, and then that they need to be up here at the top to be able to turn pages. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the page here. I'm going to walk you through some of the different tips and tidbits here. And then as I'm walking you through, please feel free to actually work on the Jamboard while I'm going through. I want you to be able to play with this and get as much time in here as you can. So sticky notes we talked about. Sticky notes are over here on the side. Again, a great time for us to collaborate. If you want to build your PLN, if you are on Twitter and you would like to connect with others that may be here today, grab a sticky note, put your name on it. What do you teach? How are you feeling today? Put your Twitter handle on there if you would like to. Mine is down at the bottom. I am on Twitter. I'm kind of a Twitteraholic, I hate to say, but I love to share out and connect, and that's probably my main social media platform, so feel free to follow me if you'd like to. So sticky notes are here. Feel free to jump on, try the different colors, add in a note. The second area here is, again, a timeline, and this time instead of bringing in just a pencil tool timeline, I actually found a clip art that I brought in with a timeline. And thinking about the beginning of the year and wondering about kids and when is your birthday, this is a great way to build a timeline collaboratively with your class. There are a lot of ways that students can add to this timeline. Again, they can use the pen tool and they can put their birthday on there. They can put their name on there. They could add a sticky note and resize and put near their month. the thing that I love, and you're going to notice I've got Bitmojis all over the place in mine. I love using the Bitmojis just for fun, just to liven things up. If you have the Bitmoji Chrome extension, the beautiful thing when you are on your computer is you can go up to that Chrome extension. You can type in what it is that you are looking for. So I'm going to type in birthday. I don't think you're able to see this as I'm doing it. But once you have the one that you want, you can just click and you can drag that Bitmoji extension right onto your canvas, and it's going to pop it right on there. Here it comes. So just a really simple and easy way to bring in your Bitmojis. And my birthday is in November. Okay, so timelines are there. Feel free to add your birthday on the board that you are on. Inserting images, I kind of already went through, but again, I'd like you to practice it as well. So thinking about all the crazy times that we are living in right now, if COVID wasn't keeping you home, where would you like to be? You know, we had a ski vacation plan for Colorado before all the ski hills closed down. And obviously I can't do that on a beautiful day like today, but boy, I would love to be on the ski hills. So again, to insert a picture on the side here, you're going to come down to add image. If you happen to be on a mobile device right now, instead of saying add image, it will say insert picture. So show us where you'd love to be. On the next page, this is one of the amazing features of the app. So I'm going to actually jump ship a little bit and talk a little bit about the app, because if you are on a mobile device, this is absolutely amazing. So I had mentioned to you as a pro tip before that I like to have my Google Jamboard up and presenting to you right now on the MacBook. However, I have my Jamboard open right now on my iPad. And the beautiful thing about that is that I can now use some assistive tools, including drawing and handwriting. So to access those, and I'm not going to actually be able to show you this piece per se, so I'm going to come back over to the original presentation to show you what the toolbar looks like on the app. So again, it's very similar. As you can see, my MacBook toolbar here on the left, this is the one on the app. So again, the pen is there, the eraser, the select tool, and the laser pointer. But then there's a plus sign down here at the bottom. When you click on that plus sign, you will notice that you're going to be able to insert drive content. And I see a question coming through on the Padlet board about Google Slides and presentations within Jamboard. And yes, Pear Deck I'm not as familiar with, but Google Slides, yes and no. And I'll show you that in just a moment, actually. It really is nice the way it integrates in. So you can do drive content. There is obviously the camera on a mobile device, so you can actually have your students take a picture of what they are working on. And there are some stickers, not a lot to choose from. They're not overly exciting, but there are a few there to choose. What I love, though, is this the assistive drawing tools that are available here. So on the app, if you click the pen tool, you'll see the different pen tools and the different colors, but down below here it says assistive drawing tools. When you click on the down arrow here, you have three choices. You have what looks like text, that's handwriting to text. You have auto shapes. So I don't know about you, but I cannot draw a circle to save my life. Well, now I don't need to. I can do my best and it will auto draw it for me. And then there's auto draw, which again, I can't draw worth a darn either. Everything I draw looks like a dinosaur, no matter what it is. And so auto draw, thank goodness, allows me to draw whatever it is that I need to. So I do want to show you that. So now, having seen that, that interface on the slide deck, I'm going to go back to the Group 1 Jamboard. And I'm going to show you. You're not going to be able to see what it looks like on my screen. However, you'll see it when it's done. So I'm on my iPad right now. When I click the pen tool, I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to touch where it says assistive drawing tools, like I mentioned. And I'm going to go to the handwriting text recognition. I absolutely love this because the sticky notes sometimes get old. And I'm looking, Bob is on mine. I'm guessing Bob is maybe possibly on the app based on the fact that he's got his handwriting there and it looks so very, very nice. So I can now, and I have an Apple Pencil that I'm using for my stylus. I can write with my own handwriting, and you can see how it's looking there. And now it is going to change it over to text recognition. And my internet a lag here, but it should pop. Boards, if I'm wanting things to be a little bit more in-depth, much like the slide deck I'm using right now, I'll create on both, which is just something that I've played with. But the reason I'll play on both is if I want that handwriting, now I can take this over on my MacBook or even on the iPad, but I can now take this and I can resize it. And now I'm back on my MacBook and I can take this and I can move this around. So if I'm creating a template for students ahead of time, this is just, it's a great trick. The drawing tools, again, if I'm back up in the pen tools and I come down to assistive drawing, I can tap the assistive drawing piece at the bottom. And again, like I said, I can't draw worth a diddly. So if I draw 2 circles and I come up, you can see what this is going to look like. And the nice thing too is you can see my little icon there as I'm drawing. Down on the bottom of my screen right now, it's saying, do you mean, and this is the part you're not able to see, but it's showing me 4 or 5 different types of cars, everywhere, anything from a police car to a top view to a truck. Which one are you drawing? And as I'm scrolling through right now, I can find the one that, yeah, this is the one that I'm actually trying to draw. And when I tap on it, it's going to take that drawing that I did, and it's going to turn it into this. Absolutely love this. Again, a lot of applications, if you're looking at the beginning of the year just for some fun community building, what a fun way to just have like a, I hate to say like a win, lose, or draw, but just to have kids do some sketches and experiment with Jamboard. So again, that is available on the app. So if you are on this collaborative document and you are mobile, give that a try. It is absolutely amazing. On the next page in the app, I already showed you this, but feel free to drag, drop, add sticky notes, kind of play around with that template. Again, we already talked about that. Again, just play with that template. KWLs I had mentioned. This is, again, a great way to bring KWLs in so that your students can all participate at the same time. I know in our district, we're talking about smart boards and no shared devices. So our smart boards, as far as students coming up and writing on them, are going to be off limits due to COVID. So this is a great way you could display this on your smart board from your computer or interactive whiteboard, whatever it is that you are using. Your students can now be on their devices. They can add on here and it's going to show up in real time on your smartboard. So students can all have the opportunity now to add something to that KWL. Back in the day, chart paper on the easel and I was the one writing it, and how many students do you get to call on? 1, 2, or 3, and yet you've got 5 kids there with their hands up and saying, wait, I still have an idea. This gives all of your students the opportunity. Again, using the pen tool, using a sticky note, whatever the case may be, whatever the tool is best for them. Thinking about vocabulary words, have your students, maybe you have a vocabulary word like I have here where I added the word trudged on a note. Maybe you're having them go and search images now to describe that word. Great collaborative activity. Just kind of a fun thing here, and I pulled this Connect 4 board in from an image. Again, used the Google search, pulled in my Bitmoji like I showed you. So often, one of the conversations that came up as we were talking and reviewing our information from the surveys from spring, teachers oftentimes like, how do I keep my kids engaged? Being remote, it's so hard, you're not right there, and you can only do so much song and dance remotely. Here's a great idea. And again, this idea is from Rachel Coathup. I stole this from her. She's amazing. Have students play Connect 4 by answering questions. If they answer a question correctly, they get to use the pen tool and color in the circle with yellow or red. See if they can Connect 4. So gamify what you're doing right here. Great for small groups in particular. So again, just kind of a fun thing to bring in, but to bring that engagement factor up. So you can kind of play with that. Equatio, like I said, there are directions on it. I don't know if we'll totally get to it, but this is just an example of the Equatio extension and what you can bring in. So I was able to bring in pattern blocks. For math teachers, you can actually handwrite equations, obviously fractions. We're talking about primes and things of that sort. I can handwrite it and it will turn it into text for me. And I can then pop it onto the board. Thinking about all the tools as you're playing through here, take a moment, use the pen tool, highlight your favorite Jamboard tool, give the different pen tools a try. So this is just your opportunity on this page to just try the different tools out. Thinking again about accountability and how you can use Jamboard, this template is on the Wakelet board of resources that you will actually be able to go onto that Wakelet board and make a copy, and it will be on available in your Google Drive for you to use. This is simply just a pre-programmed sticky note. Share 2 things that you learned or a question that you have. So again, thinking about us today, please feel free to go on, pick a sticky note. All you need to do, as we mentioned earlier, is to click on it. Put your question in there. Put something that you learned in there. And again, the accountability piece here is whether it's numbers or your student names, I can see who has responded. So again, just that accountability piece. But again, I would love to hear your feedback as you are working through on the board. Please feel free to go on that page and add questions or things that you've learned so far. And again, thinking about all the things that we're looking at here, you know, what is something that maybe you're excited to try with Jamboard in the upcoming months as we're face-to-face or possibly virtual? We're better together. If you're brainstorming already and thinking about ways that this can be used in your classroom, by all means, please feel free to add it to this, that we can all learn from each other and go back with a bigger bag of tricks. Couple of pro tips here. I'm not going to go specifically through these. You can read through them. I also have these on that Wakelet board. Some of them we've already touched upon, like the handwriting and text recognition and the Bitmoji, dragging your Bitmoji in from the Chrome extension. But as far as wanting to be able to point arrows and things like this, again, I use the auto drawing tool. And like I said, read through. There's a couple of tips and tricks here that you may find helpful. So play around on there. I'm going to check and see what my last, we're going to leave that one. Play around on there. I'm going to go through a few more slides that I have here with the remaining minutes that we have, and then I'll open up for questions here as well. But please work through that collaborative board. So the app, like I said, is a little bit more functional. I think it has a lot more to offer. The last thing that I do want to share with you here that you can do from the app has to do with the question that was put on the Padlet board about the Google presentations and such. So I apologize that there are parts of this workflow that you won't be able to see because of how Google Meet works, but I will talk through it so that you'll understand it, hopefully, and when you're on a mobile app, be able to handle it without any problem. So as you can see on your screen right now, you can insert content on the app. Again, this is within the app area. You can insert content from Google Drive, including docs, slides, sheets, PDFs. And the great thing is, if you've got a slide deck of let's say, 25 pages, if you will, maybe there's one page on that slide deck that you want to be able to pull out and share with students. This is how you do it. So as you can see here, I have a bunch of different ones on my screen right now. I'm now going to be mobile on my iPad. And on my iPad, I'm going to open up this Kevin Henkes PDF that I have. I'm doing that by tapping on it. Okay, and when I tap on it, it actually enlarges the PDF so that I can see in vertical format all of the different pages. In fact, I think what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to come back over to, let's see if I can hold this up on the Meet so you can see this. Hopefully you're able to see. So here's my iPad. Here's that Kevin Henkes PDF. And I simply tapped on it, and you can see down here now, all the pages are showing up vertically, so I can slide through the different pages, and it's kind of hard to do because of the angle that I'm on here, but I can slide through those different pages. If there's a page within this PDF that I now want to share with students, I can simply take my finger or my stylus, I can drag that out of the PDF, and it's going to pop it on my screen. So that should be going live in the slide deck. And now I can take and I can enlarge that page so it's available for students to use. So that really is a game changer. And again, I'm going to come back to the screen here. Hopefully my internet will catch up. You can see my little icon is here. At least I think you can see it. There we go. So there's the page that I pulled out. If my internet catches up, it should enlarge. And if not, from here now, even though I had to do that on my iPad, once it's on the screen, now on my MacBook, now I can enlarge it and move it around. So again, there's the benefit if you do have a mobile device that you can work between two if you're creating a template. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities to be able to bring content in to Jamboard that you want to use with your students. So you don't have to hand create everything by dragging in images and clip art and so on and so forth. So, all right. And then on, I guess that does kind of bring us to the end here. So I am going to open up for questions if you have any.